Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in tonight's episode of the Franchising 360 Show. Appreciate you joining us on this Friday night. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Danielle Wright.
Hi.
And I am Tim Parmeter. We're going to talk to a franchise owner tonight.
Woohoo!
Kind of excited for this one to come in here.
Yeah, I'm always excited when someone takes my seat.
You know what makes me sad? That you won't be there.
Okay.
But that was recorded, right?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
perfect.
it. That's fine.
So, but we had talked a few weeks ago, really
Yes.
this one's going to tie in a few things that we've actually talked about.
Like, how much money can I make?
Ooh, how much can I make?
A little or a lot? The answer is, how much money do you want to make?
How much do you want to make? And then when we get to that point, we can either settle in or we can do what tonight's guest is going to do, which is
add units.
Scale.
Oh, words.
And we talked early on, I think maybe our very first question, if anybody ever writes in, and the franchising360show.com if you want to ask any questions or any feedback, but please, just the positive stuff. We're very fragile. We're new. We know we're getting better at this. But one of the first questions was like the plan, and we're going to hear about how to actually implement it tonight.
And we met this guest when we were recently with the IFA in Washington, D.C. at an advocacy summit. He was in my group. So he's from here, Florida, Clearwater area. Super nice guy. We spent an entire day. If anybody knows that, it takes a lot of energy to spend an entire day with a person these days, but it was super fun. And he's a great guy and his story is awesome. So,
and I think it also will be a good indicator in the range of things that are out there as a franchise. Because if we were going to survey everybody, like 10 industries that you can think of in franchising.
And you and I have done it here on the show. We've talked food, and we've talked more food.
Right. Did you know McDonald's is a franchise?
Did you know? No. Yes, I did know McDonald's is a franchise, but he can even speak to what his background was. And I think you've said a lot of times people choose businesses that aren't related to their background. So that was something.
And he'll be a little bit of an anomaly with that because the franchise kind of wasn't designed that way, but he's going to share with us like it ended up that way, but most people don't.
Super excited to learn about this franchise. Like I would say, even as someone that's known franchising for a long time, it's kind of just sat in the back of my mind. Like, really, who wants to do that? So I'll be excited to hear what he has to say.
Yeah. And so what do you say we just get to it?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to leave my seat. You're going to take us to a break?
I'll be sad. I'll miss you for the next 15 minutes. But when we come back, we have a franchise owner, and not just a franchise owner, one that is absolutely grown a magnificent business in facilities management. So Google that really fast over the next 2 minutes. And when we're back, we're going to talk to John Duffy, owner of Citywide, right here on the Franchise 360 Show. Okay, folks, we are back here with our guest. Love having guests in the studio. And this one is not just a franchise owner, but he's going to be humble about it, but an amazing franchise owner, Mr. John Duffy of Citywide. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We are excited to talk to you. Typically how this works, I'm going to lob in some questions, make you feel it's easy, and then we hit you with the big zinger and you start crying and everything.
You got it.
So start with, you've been a franchise owner for
15 years
now, right? Do you remember life before franchising? What did you do?
Oh yeah. Once I graduated college, my plan was actually to coach college football and be a teacher, and then ended up joining a company called Centos. I thought I would just do it for the summer and then go back to teaching and coaching. And I remember my coach telling me, once you get a taste of money, you'll never go back. And literally that's what happened. And 20 years later, I found myself in the corporate world and kind of hit my glass ceiling and was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And then franchising came along, and 15 years later, here I am.
So how did it come along?
We actually we read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. We formed a little mastermind group, and we'd meet on weekends, me and a few other guys, and talk about different businesses. And whether it was through coaching, whether it was through working for a big Fortune 500 company, we knew if we had the playbook, we could execute it pretty well.
Yeah.
And so it kind of led you to franchising because they give you the playbook, and then implementing what they give you was something we could do pretty good.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So then all these franchises, thousands of them.
A bunch of them.
How did we get to Citywide?
Well, we knew we were in the service business before, so we kind of had said we don't want to get into restaurants or something we had never done before. So we wanted to get in an industry that we were familiar with. We wanted a proactive sales approach. We wanted to be able to knock on doors and go after it, because in 2010, it wasn't, you weren't going to necessarily open a store and tons of people come to you.
Right.
We wanted a fragmented industry. We wanted an industry with a really big top line opportunity, because if we figured we could get a big top line, then we could, get the amount of money that we wanted out of it. Yeah. So those were kind of some of the criteria that we had set, and so we look for those. We look for those things, and it led us to Citywide.
Which is, so this is your chance for a little elevator pitch. John, what is Citywide?
We do facility maintenance. So we do building maintenance for commercial buildings, large and small. Buildings like dentist's office or medical buildings, to schools, to car dealerships, to any office building that has nightly cleaning. And typically we start with nightly cleaning, and then once we're in there with nightly cleaning, we try and penetrate it with as many other services that you can possibly get. Make it stickier, make it more valuable for the customer to use you on a regular basis. So
every time they have to figure out, oh, I need windows washed, or I've got AC,
right.
they just call you.
We assign a manager to the facility. They stop by on a weekly basis, develop a relationship with the person, and we really kind of become an unpaid member of their staff when it comes to facilities, and take care of their facility and let them know when something's up. Frankly, probably more than they let us know. So so yeah.
Awesome. So you had talked about kind of your athletic teaching, coaching background, right? And we had Pete Baldine on a couple of weeks ago talking about VetFran and the amazing work veterans do in franchising. And I think this is kind of a corollary to athletes follow the plan, right? You're like, hey, we're looking for a playbook, just like the football coach going, show me the diagram, show me what route to run. And you found that with the franchise. Is there a playbook, or is that all talk? What's your experience been?
My experience has been that it's very much about the playbook. Now, I was fortunate enough to actually sell some franchises for Citywide for a little bit, and I understand the difference between people that are getting ready to get ready and then people that actually go out there and make it happen. But when you're given a playbook and you have successful franchises that are in front of you, it just makes you feel a lot more comfortable. I mean, it's a scary jump to begin with when you make that leap from the security of a check on a weekly basis to doing it for yourself. But it's a lot like sports. You have a good offense, a good defense, create a good culture, the playbook, implement the playbook, execute it good, and off you go.
Yeah. And every now and then, I think the three little letters Danielle and I talk about, and our team at FranCoach, FSO, which can be a bad connotation sometimes in franchising, but figure stuff out. You have to kind of have that ability. Playbook is great, but they can't do the every little tiny minute detail, right?
No, there's out of the 100+ franchises that we have, when you look at the most successful ones, they are ones that absolutely have the FSO, versus people that are waiting for the franchisor to give them the answers, and they have answers, and they are very helpful and very supportive, but they are not the reason you're successful or not successful.
You have to kind of want to be that person in charge and running everything.
Absolutely right. It's totally up to you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so they'll give you all the tools necessary to be successful, but at the end, it's going to be up to you.
So you've been in business now for 15 years. If you can think back to, kind of getting the Wayback Machine to the beginning, what were some of those real kind of big challenges, or I'm sure there was probably a big mistake along the way. Can you share any of those?
Well, there's probably a ton of mistakes because it cost probably more money than what we thought it would be to get it started. But, we came to a new town. We had never even been to a town. When we bought the franchise, we moved families and things like that here. So that was different to begin with. We chose an area that was probably less expensive instead of the right area. So immediately out of the gate, we're like logistically all in the wrong places and those type things. You would have thought we had never hired anybody in our life when the first few hires that, it was just crazy. So everything that could have happened possibly wrong at the beginning happened wrong at the beginning. We are one of the most successful, but we didn't sell an account for like 90 days. So we literally are like, what is going to go on here, And so finally you just keep working at it and figure it out, and it comes along.
And clearly you figured it out and then some. So we want to talk about kind of those successes and how you've really grown and some of that scalability. We're going to do that when we come back on the Franchising 360 show. And we are back here on the Franchising 360 show. Joining us tonight is John Duffy. He is a franchise owner for Citywide. And if you missed the last segment, shame on you, because he shared You know what? He actually may have made a mistake at the beginning, like every single franchise owner, maybe, I don't know, slightly deviating from the plan, didn't quite know something. But guess what? You figured stuff out
Yeah, yeah.
and grew to, and like, you've got like a fantastic, amazing business, what you guys are doing and building and revenue wise. But you finally got to the point where, hey, maybe we want to scale. What was that kind of maybe transition like, and even some of the thoughts leading up to, are we ready for that?
Well, I think could have been a little bit of boredom from a standpoint of
It was going too well.
well, we had replaced ourselves, and so now we're more investors, and we got out of the day to day working, and now we're in a position to be able to look at it from a 10,000 feet level and
Right.
and do it that way. And so the thought of, well, we did it once, let's buy a second location and do it the second time. Our franchisor was a little hesitant because the markets that we do have are pretty large markets to
Right.
begin with, and so so we ended up buying Dade County, Miami, and then my son. We took him down there and put him in charge of that office, and we've had that office for 5 years as well too, and so it's going uh, good as well. So
Well, and you hit on two key things there, I think, from a franchising standpoint. Is you started out and you guys were, you were grinding it hard from the
yeah,
beginning, kind of slowly elevated yourself, and then basically like built yourself out of a job almost,
yeah,
right? Which
yeah.
is fantastic. And then also being able to incorporate your family and bring your son in. How's that? What's that experience been like?
It's been phenomenal. I mean, it's interesting because I was uh, not long ago. I was in Germany and was sitting down with dinner with my wife, and this lady comes in, and she had just finished past the bar and was excited because she was going to be a corporate attorney. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you're not getting it. You're this beautiful, bright person. You need to go start a franchise and work yourself out of a job, not into a job for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've learned through this, and to be able to pass it on to my kids and hopefully have my kids be able to do that. I mean, they're going to work for now, but to be able to enjoy your life, enjoy your family, enjoy your kids and grandkids and those kind of things, it's the best. It's the best thing of it, and I want
Yeah.
to pass that on to others, frankly. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, don't buy a franchise. Don't buy yourself a job. Buy yourself an opportunity that
Well,
can do those
which is
things.
interesting, because that's a thing sometimes in franchising, that people view it as, oh, it's just like buying a job,
Yeah.
right? And yes, there are some out there that
Right.
are like that, but part of your process was choosing a franchise that was looking for people that wanted to be big business and really grow.
Absolutely. I mean, if you said it right, and a lot of people have a hard time giving up that
Yes.
control, if you will, to let other people run their companies and look at it from that type of standpoint. I think that is difficult to do.
Yeah.
I think it's something you can learn. I think it's something people can help you with and do those kind of things, because it is much easier at 10,000 feet than it is when you're dealing with it every
Right.
single day.
Yeah,
And
you
so,
you get stuck in the weeds, and you
absolutely.
just can't see everything. And I think that's part of the beauty of the franchising world, is it really can't, if you want to be in the weeds, you
Yeah.
certainly can,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
totally fine. But you're able to grow it. What was maybe kind of, if you can think back, you're like, oh my gosh, we didn't get the first deal for 90 days and the sky's falling. Can you remember maybe kind of a turning point where you're like, oh, maybe we've got this?
Well, I just keep working at it, and there's no silver bullet. And I think a lot of people, you come in, the franchisor tells you to do X, you end up, inevitably doing Y because you think you're smarter than they
Right.
are. And we did the same thing. It's like when your kids, don't touch the stove, it's hot. You got to touch the stove and feel it's hot. And then you
Right.
go, okay, I'll listen to you.
Right.
And then we listened to them and we did exactly what they said. And then lo and behold, here comes the business. And you're like, okay, I should have listened to the first time. But,
Right.
and we paid all the money to buy the franchise. They told us what to do. And we did something else.
It's
It
just
makes
crazy,
no
isn't
sense.
it? Right.
It makes no sense. But, follow the playbook and you'll be successful.
Yeah, it's funny when we have our clients at FranCoach and they get talking to owners. I'm always like, hey, would you do it all over again? Why or why not? They'll almost always rat themselves out at
Yeah.
the beginning, right? I wish I'd have done this,
Right.
and then you're like, did they tell you to do that? Well, yes, they did.
I know. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what's kind of next for you and Citywide? Do you have kind of a next plan for this?
Well, our goal was to take the Tampa location to 100 million in revenue.
Okay.
This year we'll do close to a little over 40 million in revenue, and Miami, be in 5 years, will be a little over 5 million in revenue. So our goal is to get this location to 100 million,
Okay.
and then eventually get Miami to 100 million. In the building maintenance world, it's a big industry. It's just a lot of opportunity. Look at diversifying at some point in other franchise, maybe opportunities and things like that. But for right now, it's pretty much, full attention at Citywide and trying to be able to get it as big as we can, because the opportunity is just phenomenal.
Yeah. If you need a good franchise coach down the road for the next thing, I know a guy, but
Okay.
but you kind of glossed over. You're like, oh, we're like 40 million. Like, I'd be screaming that, dude. 40 million in revenue in facility maintenance. This, like, the riches are in the niches. It's not you don't have the sexiest industry and
No.
business in the world.
No, I mean but I didn't come from a sexy industry, so I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
But from a standpoint of building maintenance, it's $100 billion North American market.
Yeah.
So I mean, Tampa alone could be, say, $1 billion, and you can get less than 10% of the market share and still be under the radar and nobody know you exist. We clean 700 buildings now, and there's 200,000 buildings in our area. So there's just commercial wise, it's unlimited. And it's just
I don't
phenomenal.
have to clean my house. I've kind of got to clean my office building.
Yeah, that's right. It's your asset, so you need to take care of it. So
what's so you've gone through this amazing journey, and now maybe somebody out there watching, like, I don't know, we got usually 6 or 7 people that are tuned in.
Parents and
that's right. It's not even them. We haven't told anybody we know. But somebody's watching this. Should I go into this? What would be some advice that you would share to somebody thinking about becoming a franchise owner?
I would say, I mean, it's obviously blessed me and my family and a lot of other people that I know. And I think if you want freedom, if you want to be able to, call your own shots, for the lack of better words, and be able to, really prioritize God, family, and work, which is our priorities, and make that an emphasis, then I think it's an opportunity for people to be able to do those kind of things. And so I worked at corporate world. I worked all the time. I worked at the same place for 20 years. It took me 5 minutes to quit, and I thought it would, and I realized that, hey, I'm just a pawn. It's okay. I'm totally okay with it.
Right.
And I mean, I understand that, but
they were sad that you left for the other 5 minutes.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I'm thinking, okay, you guys aren't going to make it.
Right.
But
it's me, right?
I know. So here we are. And so so I think doing it for yourself is just a big deal. And so anyway, so
awesome.
I would highly encourage people to do it. And franchising is a great way to do it, because they give you the playbook and give you a lot of.
You get the playbook and support and the kick in the butt when you touch the stove when they told you not to. They remind you and then tell you how to work around that. So
that's right.
John, thank you so much for coming on tonight to join us, and just congratulations on the amazing success you've had so far.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This is John Duffy, Citywide, joining us here on the Franchising 360 show. We'll be right back after this. Thanks. All right, we are back on the Franchising 360 show. The lady in green is back. Danielle, loved having John. I missed you, but I loved having John join us on the show tonight.
Yeah, John was exciting. I didn't realize how much facilities maintenance made in money.
Who knew riches in the niches, right?
That was a great little thing that you said. But you're going to keep saying it, I'm sure.
Riches in the niches, and I'm not going to give credit to the person who originally I heard that from.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
They're not watching. They won't know I stole it. It's totally fine.
But I like a story, right? A lot of people don't think that you have to do one or the other. It leads to a question that we had from a viewer about, do I have to quit my job?
Wait, we had a question?
We did.
You going to share?
Well, that's it. Do I have to give up my job to start a franchise? Like, there are ways to do that. And not leave the security of, the paycheck. So
well, and John talked about, like, the importance of freedom, and even kind of his story about, somebody just passed the bar and getting ready to be kind of like, oh, geez, why do you want a job, right? How awful. And sometimes people think franchising is buying a job.
Yeah.
And again,
kind of can be.
For some people, that's
okay.
But for John, it was, again, jumping in full time, but then he kind of like grew himself out of it. But what you're saying is that we could actually keep the job and have the franchise? I've
seen people do it. I think you've talked to people. Is that generally a question that they have?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's a thing. We kept our jobs and bought franchises.
We did. And so it was, you'll hear the term, what's the term in franchising for this is? semi-absentee owner.
Oh, you're gonna coin a word. Okay, yes, semi-absentee.
So
Like generally, franchises aren't semi-absentee. They're given to you as like business in the box. You know, you owner operator. You're gonna run it like you would
well, I think the
anything.
misconception sometimes is like, well, I'll get to the business when I get to it, right?
Right.
And really, this probably rolls us into a whole episode
Yes.
of, can this really happen? And it can, for sure.
And now we've talked to two people. Remember, go way back to Stephanie Ruby. She has a job. They're trying to open a franchise. John had a job, opened a franchise. So it's what's great about, or what I've observed, is that you can make it work for you if you want to make it work.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to make it work, then maybe it's not the right option for you.
There's really a very important word in there, which is work.
Or make. You have to make it. What is it that we always say? We talk about the figure it out.
Right. FSO,
and it feels like that everybody has figured it out that we've talked to thus far. I mean, go back to Pete on the veterans episode. Like, he figured it out. He walked into it just like most of us and tried to figure it out. So excited about. Thanks, John, for coming to the show and talking about your experience and giving us that insight. And then I look forward to the next conversations that we're going to have.
Which how about next week? Let's go a little bit more into.
Sure. I'm here next week, right?
Well, technically. So we're heading up into Thanksgiving, and I know next week people will be off the, next Friday. They've been shopping all day because
they're ready for some football. They're in a turkey coma, like all of the things.
Black Friday, do people leave and go shop for stuff, or is it just all on the internet?
Nope. Still leave and go shop for stuff. Okay. Yeah. No, Internet's Cyber Monday.
Where are you going to be next Friday?
I'm going to be on a boat.
We will be on a boat that day.
We will be on a boat.
Freedom and flexibility of business ownership means we get to
be on a boat that day.
We get to be on a boat that day. But magically, from the seas somewhere far and wide, we will still be here next Friday.
Yes.
So,
and I look forward to seeing you then.
I look forward to seeing you too. And let's talk about the term in franchising, semi-absentee, even though it kind of makes some of us cringe. But basically, keep your job.
Yep.
And have that business and all the things that we need to think about for that. Let's do that next week. All right.
Perfect. I'm here.
Cool. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody next Thursday. We'll see you next Friday. Get you over that turkey coma and talk about how you can keep your job and start a franchise on the Franchising 360 show.